This video is going to be about the power of relationships. So, as y'all know or might not know, I recently got into a relationship with this woman right here.
Howdy.
What was it, like 2-3 months ago?
Mm-hmm. Almost 3 months ago.
Yeah. It started November 1st. And a lot has happened since then. So, I went down a huge spiritual journey. I mean, I've already really been into spirituality even before meeting her, but after meeting her, it was like a nosedive deep into all of my deepest fears, insecurities, triggers, traumas, and same thing for her. And I've just found that relationship is one of the most powerful tools if you actually want to become what they call enlightened or awakened. It's just another way of saying embodying more love or just having a higher self-esteem and actually loving yourself. And this is a process that a lot of people aren't necessarily willing to go through. It's 111. We see angel numbers all the time. I think it's because we look for them, but anyways, it's a very intense journey to go down, and I feel like the knowledge that I have and that I've acquired throughout the years and through this relationship, and I'm only going to continue to grow and learn more, but I feel like I've learned so much to where I could help a lot of you guys that are either wanting to learn about this stuff, you want to do the inner work, you want to heal yourself, you want to get into a healthy relationship, you want to know how that works. I have a lot of valuable knowledge and wisdom that I've acquired that can really help you guys. Relationships, they serve as essentially just a reflection of you back to yourself. So the issue that a lot of people do is they get into a relationship, and if they feel triggered or if they feel hurt, they automatically blame the person, and they're like, oh, you made me feel unworthy, or you made me feel this way, this is your fault. And then they start an argument. They're completely missing the value within them being triggered. They're just blaming the other person, and they stay in this victim mentality, and they believe that they're powerless and that their partner has control over them. Completely not true. Instead, when you get triggered, that's an opportunity for you to look at yourself and ask yourself some questions like, okay, why is this triggering me? What would I need to believe to be true about myself in order to be feeling this feeling? Or just sitting with the emotion and allowing yourself to feel the feelings rather than suppressing them or avoiding them or distracting yourself with food or TV or social media or pornography or whatever escapism route that you have. Do you want to share anything about anything that you've learned or the power that you've noticed within the relationship that's really helped you?
I mean, you pretty much said everything. You reflect back to me what I need to heal in myself. Whether that be insecurity, triggers, trauma, any kind of trauma, childhood trauma, past experiences, all of that is revealed to me literally in almost anything that kind of comes up anytime I feel an emotion, and just diving into that and talking to you about that. Communication is such a big thing in relationships too, and having that conversation, even if it means talking about things that we don't want to talk about or we're not comfortable speaking about.
Yeah, communication and knowing how to communicate is extremely crucial for having a healthy relationship. The thing that she learned about me very quickly is that I'm very honest. Like, very honest. Like, too honest to where some people might think it's a bit odd, but in my opinion, it's just how I believe people should be. I believe, especially if you have a partner and you expect to have a long-term relationship or spend the rest of your life with this person, why can't I be 100% honest? And why can't she be 100% honest about anything and everything. So I tell Liana all the time, you can always be honest with me no matter what. Because I understand that honesty is it's necessary for a healthy relationship. If you're trying to hide something, if you're trying to not be seen a certain way, that's an indicator that it's going to be a unhealthy, toxic relationship, because you're essentially afraid for that person to see your real self. So you're trying to put up this facade for the person, and that's always going to lead to toxicity in some way.
Yeah, that and trying to uphold this image of yourself that was never really real to begin with.
Yeah. That's why people tend to say, oh, the honeymoon phase usually lasts like 3 to 6 months. It's because that's usually how long people hold up a facade. You know, they just do the things and say the things that they know that their partner will like, rather than just being honest. You know, so usually after 3 to 6 months is when those things start to come up a lot, you know, triggers and all that kind of stuff, and then they just start to blame the person and build up all this resentment, and then it leads to like cheating or breaking up or whatever it may be.
My trauma response is not being honest, so
it's to lie.
Yeah, I think I've learned the value in being honest about any and everything, so that there's no misunderstandings. And I think that also ties into communication. Like, if I can be honest with you, I can also communicate anything to you and tell you how I feel and what I'm thinking, or if anything is bothering me. But yeah, realizing how much I allowed myself to self-deceive or to lie about little things, because in my mind they didn't matter, but it's a lot different outside of my reality.
Yeah. And apparently one of my specialties is being able to read people very well, especially if someone is lying. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of funny that her trauma response is to lie about things, and one of my abilities is to be able to call bullshit if someone is lying. Mm-hmm. And I'm the type of person who's willing to address the topics, or even address things that even haven't even happened, but just address it just preemptively, because I just like to dive into things. Like, as y'all know, my previous brand name was Step Into Fear. So I was never the one to shy away from something that scared me. I wanted to go into it. So it's the same thing with relationships, especially. I was like, there's no way I'm going to get into a relationship and it just be like surface level, or like we don't know everything about each other. It's like, no, if I'm going to get into a relationship, I'm going to go as deep as I possibly can, emotionally, on spiritually, on all levels. So that's exactly what we've been doing. And I believe that you might say this is weird or like this is stupid, but I do believe that the universe had us meet in order for us to grow and learn more about ourselves. The way everything worked out, it was something that only the universe could have put together. That's what I believe. I was on the journey of healing. She was also on the journey of healing. And we were like the last puzzle piece that we needed, so that we could see more about ourselves through the other person. She reflects back to me things that I disowned or haven't healed by myself, and then I do the same for her. So we understand that whenever we get triggered or whenever we feel upset or angry, it has to do with us. And we take accountability for our own triggers and emotional responses, rather than blaming the person and starting an argument. Because people who start arguments and just argue in relationships, they're completely missing the value within their own triggers. They see it as something that is a negative rather than a positive. Let's give them an example of something that could, okay, let's do the example of what happened yesterday when you were on the bed.
Okay. So I was watching a video of Danny Morel and his wife having a conversation about their relationship. And
they're a spiritual couple, or like, yeah, they help people heal and all that.
On YouTube. Amazing. But I was watching them throughout the video. Even a little bit prior to that, I was already in like a negative mindset. And then watching the video, I started to compare my relationship to their relationship and started seeing that the entire time I was in a negative mindset. I didn't even realize that until you pointed that out to me. And it was just kind of like a questioning my entire relationship, questioning if we were really meant to meet, if we should we have been healed before meeting each other, or it was literally just a comparison of my relationship and theirs. But I looked at it so negatively that it got to the point where I was like, I don't even know if I'm meant to be in this relationship with you. And then
yeah, so I remember she was covered in a blanket, and I like removed the blanket, and I just see her looking at me with like this very mean, disturbed look. And I could obviously tell right away whenever she's feeling some type of way. So I was like, why are you giving me this weird energy? And she was like, what are you talking about? So then, I addressed it, and I was like, so what's going on? And she told me like she's like questioning the relationship because, she was watching these videos and she was comparing our relationship to their relationship. And as you should know, if you don't know by now, comparison is one of the worst things to do, whether it's from yourself to another person or your relationship to another relationship, because at the end of the day, all you're seeing is just what's portrayed on the screen. You're not seeing their actual entire relationship. So this made her get into a really negative state, and then her saying that she's questioning being in the relationship made me get defensive, and I was like, well, do you want to break up or what? Or not? Like, I just went straight to the point. Because even if I do get in a negative state, I'm not going to sit there and argue. I'm just going to get straight to the point. But I realized right after I said that was coming from a place of ego and wanting to defend myself or wanting to be in avoidance. Because an issue that I've had in the past is being in avoidance. So if something ever triggered me, I just wanted to leave the situation. So I acknowledged that right after that happened, and I was like, okay, I just realized that I said that from a place of ego and from a place of being triggered. And then we talked through it, and then everything is good now. Because we were able to catch ourselves, or I was able to catch myself whenever I noticed myself getting defensive in the interaction that we were having. But if I were to continue to stay in this state of like, oh, you want to break up or what? Like, just being very blunt like this and very just negative, then obviously that wouldn't have solved anything. So you need to learn how to, I guess, humble yourself or be aware whenever you're going into a negative state yourself. Because relationships aren't meant to just be like this happy, perfect, wonderful thing 24/7. It could be, but there's obviously still going to be times where you're going to have to deal with certain things that are uncomfortable or that make you feel upset. And the goal is, if you ever do express anger or you're upset or you express that you're triggered, you come back and you realize, okay, I'm sorry. When I said that, I was coming from a place of being in my head, from being triggered. I realized that I was coming from ego. And then once you do that, then you guys can get more of an even playing field, because I was interpreting what she was saying as if I wasn't worthy enough for her or she didn't want to be with me. So I was taking it very personally. But in reality, that wasn't necessarily the case. It's just more so she was in a negative state herself, and then I took her being in a negative state as a personal attack on me. So that's what it triggered my ego to want to act out like that.
All it took was communication, and I'm even talking about how I was watching the video, making the comparisons with our relationship, and then you're like, well, this is like kind of even similar to our relationship in some ways. And from that perspective, I could see that I was looking at it like entirely from a negative place instead of a positive place of like I can make these same comparisons in a very positive way, but instead I was doing it in a very negative way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the idea that two people can watch the same exact video, but they can interpret it completely differently. That just goes to show how much power you have over your reality and what you experience. Because if you can look at the same exact video, but you can interpret it completely differently, one interprets it very positive, the other interprets it very negatively, that just goes to show you are quite literally the creator of your reality and what you experience. So even something that you initially think is negative, you could actually see the beauty in it and the value in it and see how it's actually positive if you even open up your mind to that. So a question you can ask yourself whenever you feel like a situation is just negative and it's terrible is just ask yourself this question: how is this circumstance serving me exactly the way it is? And then just sit on that question, and then sooner or later you should be able to come up with reasons and see how this situation is actually benefiting you. So that's pretty much what I wanted to just talk about in this video, about the power of relationships, a bit about communication and triggers. Obviously, I'm going to go into this a lot more in future videos, but if you enjoy this type of content, be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and also be sure to follow my Instagram at Step Into Power, because I do post more on there. So that being said, I'll see you on the next video.